I want to show you how I did a pastel painting of a place off the shore of Canarsie in Brooklyn, and it's this place right here. I know that doesn't look like New York City, but it is. Sure is. And I'll tell you about it as we draw it with pastels. These are the pastels. I am not a neat man. I am not neat. I have plenty of pastels, and they're all over the place. I'm going to show you how I did that painting right now. Okay, let's do a landscape. This is another pastel on paper landscape demonstration, and I'm going to paint a picture that is really not that unusual, but there's perhaps a personal connection for myself, and that's why I'm painting it. And it's off of the coast or the shore of an area of Brooklyn called Canarsie, and it faces onto an area called Jamaica Bay. And if you're familiar with JFK Airport is right on Jamaica Bay. Okay, so let's just start with the sky. This is going to be a pretty simple landscape, I would think. We're just going to... It basically consists of just the sky, some greenery, and some water and some sand. And this is an area of New York City, actually, and there are no buildings in this picture. I think one of the things that most people think of when they think of any city or any place, really, is their limited exposure to the city or the place. And so in New York City's case, there's a lot of people who, for some reason, well, I know the reason, they picture Times Square, they picture Rockefeller Center, they picture the Empire State Building, and maybe Wall Street, and they don't realize, they don't think about it, and why would you? If you're going to New York as a tourist, you really kind of just want to see all those spots that you always hear about in the news, and in in movies and stuff. So I'm going to add just a little purple to this, just to kind of bring out some of the sky. There's probably no purple in the actual sky, but I'm just sketching in now with very rough, broad lines. As you can tell, I'm using the side of the pastels. I'm using Rembrandt. That's the brand. Although there are some other brands mixed in that I have lost the labels for, so I don't know all of the brands I have here. So let's just sketch in a little bit of this. And now what I want to do is just add a little more. Looking for a light blue, a lighter blue than I've been using. In paint, a lot of times I will fall back on Payne's Gray, because Payne's Gray is kind of a very, almost like a magical color. Well, it looks like a blue. That looks like what I want. So let's just put it in there. Yeah, that works nice. Here we go. There's our sky. Now I'm going to scrub it in, and I'm using a piece of insulation for like plumbing or wiring, and just scrubbing it in. You call it a blending stump in the art supply store. If you go to Lowe's and get something like this, it's called insulation. Yeah, see, it smooths it out nicely, and that's kind of what I want for this picture. I want it to be smooth, especially in the sky and later on in the water. There we go. All right, now let's put some clouds in there. And it was the reference photo I'm using has kind of a billowy cloud formation happening in the distance. So I'll kind of emulate that a little bit. There we go. Just a little bit here and there. And I'll go ahead and get some gray. I think I saw some gray in here to create the shadows underneath. And also to kind of hazy up the skyline a little bit, or the near the horizon. So I have a personal connection to this area I want to tell you about. Again, this is off of Canarsie, near the Canarsie Pier. When I was younger, I don't remember the pier. It might have been there, but I was just a little kid. My father, he used to, before I was born, my father used to go to this area, and he would go fishing in like a little rowboat. And I have some pictures of my mother and him out there when dating years, I'm sure. Might have been after the war, might have been before the war, but I think it was probably after. Although I don't know how old they are in the picture. But anyway, later on, when I was born, I was the third of their children, and I was the third son. My two older siblings were brothers, and I have a younger brother and a younger sister also, by the way. But anyway, so my uncle, my father's brother, and my dad, they would go out fishing into Jamaica Bay when we were kids. So in other words, it was something they started when they were kids or teens, and they continued doing it as young adults. So they would, once my dad had children, my uncle Bud didn't have any children. So once my dad had children, my uncle Bud would take us fishing out there. My older brother Tom, he went fishing probably the most because he was the older. And I remember being told, when you're 12 years old, we'll take you fishing. And they did. They didn't. I don't even think they waited till I was 12. I think they just took me fishing, and I caught a flounder. I remember catching a flounder. Isn't that funny? And that's all. That's the whole story there. But it holds a memory for me because of that. And the Canarsie area gets its name from the Canarsie Indians. And my brother's kind of interested. My brother Bill, he's a professor out at the University of Oregon. Sorry, I said it wrong. But yeah, he's looking into it, and he's interested in the history of it. And the Canarsie Indians were occupying, that was their home. That whole area of western Long Island that is now known as the boroughs of not the Bronx, Queens and Brooklyn. So they would, the Indians would live there, and so they named it Canarsie. Now, Canarsie Indians, if you were to spell it with our alphabet, was Canarsee, and Canarsie, the area in Brooklyn, is Canarsie. So it's just a slightly different spelling, if you want to look it up. And so I had this recollection of going fishing as a little kid, and I found this picture on Google, and I just thought, isn't that really kind of a beautiful place? I mean, it looks like it could be any place. It could be here in Florida. It could be any place, really. And yet it's New York City. It literally is New York City. The city line is, well, this is Brooklyn, actually. So where you think of New York as Times Square and as Rockefeller Center and as the Empire State Building and Fifth Avenue and Central Park and everything you think about New York City, you probably don't think too much about Canarsie. You probably think about Brooklyn, because Brooklyn shows up in a lot of things too. But you probably don't think of Canarsie. And you probably have never been, unless you're from the area, you probably have never been to this area here. When my son was younger, I took him to see, there's a beach not too far from Coney Island, and I don't know the name of it, but it is a place I remember going as a kid, and what always remained a memory for me was the horseshoe crabs that would wash up on the shore. And so I took my son down there to tell him about them, and wouldn't you know it, sure enough, we did see some horseshoe crabs, some dead ones, laying there. So he got to see them because, in Florida, you don't see them that often, even though apparently they're on the Gulf Coast. But I've never seen, I don't think I've ever seen a horseshoe crab in Florida, but I used to see them in the beach in Brooklyn. Okay, just trying to sketch in what might be some grass here. Just some light colors. Just grabbing all these little greens I got here. Yeah. It's a very painterly kind of a way to do pastels, to make it look more like paint, even though it is pastel. And to call it painting is not wrong. It is painting. You're just painting with pastels, that's all. All right, let's see. Try this one. Just want to grab a darker color. It's kind of on the purple side. That's on the blue side. Where's some dark gray or something? Oh, that'll work. Okay, now let's put some. I just want to create. Let me make that darker. I thought I had some black earlier. I hate to use black because it's so messy. Here it is. But I think I have to use black right there. Yeah. I'll smudge it out a little bit later. All right, let's just create some leaves here, some leaves over here. That's still too dark, too light, still too green. There we go. That's more like it. Yeah, I have a bad habit of not knowing what the colors are actually called. Like if you look at the label. So I just call them green and red. Not that particular. And let me just add a few more dark areas in the back there. I think I'll smudge them out. There we go. And let me get some lighter colors in there, just to kind of create the illusion of maybe some wild grass growing up out there. Okay. All right, I want to get some like a beige color. See if I have one. Well, here's a yellow. Let's try that for the beach. For the beach color. That's a little too on the orange side, but that'll work as our first shot. I want to bring it down here. Okay. That's a little on the orange side, isn't it? Yeah. Let's try this one. Oh yeah, that's better. All right, now let me smudge that around. I'm going to go back over it again, make it a little bit more defined. Okay. Now there's some dark areas in here where there are divots and holes. Let me find a brown. Let's see if this works. Yeah, that'll work. Just a little bit where the sun isn't quite reaching into there. I'll put a little bit of white onto there. And let me smudge that a little bit too. Okay. There we go. That just gave a little bit of a look of some texture to the ground over there. Looks like there's a rock over there or something. All right, speaking of rocks, there are rocks over here, so I'm just gonna piece them in here. Yeah, these are gonna be the rocks after I get it done. I'm gonna just rub in some blue, so I have the beginnings of what will be the water. Because the rocks are in the foreground, the water's kind of in the background. Let me get some of this. And we're going to need a little bit of the darker. And let's go ahead and smudge that. Let's use a blending stump for that. So this is the blending stump. It's just a rolled up piece of paper, but you can buy them in the art supply store, Hobby Lobby, whatever. I think Hobby Lobby has them. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. Probably do, I guess. Okay, all I'm trying to do here is create the illusion of water that is the very shallow part of water reaching up to the sand. So the sand is here, the beach is there. And so we're a little bit lighter than that. Then let's go ahead and find a place to put some of these little wispy greens. We're going to make some darker ones later on, but right now, just a placeholder. All right, let's get back to the rocks. The rocks have a definite darkness to them. So let me find something dark that's not black. Trying to decide if I'm trying to see if I have a dark gray. Ooh, that looks perfect. I'm going to have to break it. That's why I like to buy the half pastels the half sticks because the half sticks are already unwrapped. Okay, so let's just maybe some rocks here now. And again, the attempt to recreate the picture exactly, it's a noble attempt, but I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to create the same effect of the reference photo. I'll show you. I'll put the reference photo up there. I might have already done it. Now let's put some of these lights. There's some light coming on there from the sun. The light's hitting the rock right there. You see what I'm doing? I'm just creating like dappled light on the rock's edge, the rock's surface. Some of it is white, some of it is going to be yellowish, and some of it is going to be gray. So, because the rock could be rock, or it could be like broken concrete. Because this is, after all, Brooklyn, and you never know what might have been happening in this area. They might have rebuilt, torn things down, and then they rebuilt the area. So, okay, I think I'm going to smear this a lot. Kind of make it one big blob of stuff, and then I'll come back and refine it. Blending it like that does kind of help a little bit in trying to add details or layering it. So there we go. Now that looks better. Well, there's the shadow from that rock. There's the shadow from that rock. There we go. Now we're starting to see the dark sides of the rocks forming. There we go. Now let's put the light side on them. There's the light coming across that one. There's the light on that one. And the light is very dappled. It's probably shining through a bunch of trees, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on here. And I think I'm going to add some orange here. There's a little bit of, let me re-smear this a little bit. I think that would look better if it was a little bit more blurred in there, more blended. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now let me go back with the whites, the light colors. I had some little tiny pieces where the light is shining through the trees. And the leaves are dappling the light. There we go. Now let me add some dark to the little grassy wisps over here. The grass growing through the water. And let me add some white and some yellow, I think, to that too. There's some yellow right there. In fact, let me add some yellow over here. That wouldn't hurt because the sun is often casting some yellow on stones. It depends what the stone is made of course. So I think we're done. I think we have our picture of Canarsie. Pretty simple landscape. Maybe this area right here could use a little more blending. It definitely gives a painterly look when you do that too, which is what I am trying to achieve, a painterly look, so it looks like paint. What do you think? Okay, well, there we go. You know what? Maybe this should be blended a little bit too. These distant tree. A little bit. Just a little bit. There we go. All right, there's Canarsie. That's New York City, believe it or not. All right, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. All right, bye.